Today is Monday the 20th of February. In Battle Drill Devotionals this week, we examine a true mountaintop experience and consider what Jesus' divinity means for us today. Our Bible reading for this week is Matthew chapter 17 and verses 1 to 9. Today we're reading from the New Living Translation. The Transfiguration. 6 days later, Jesus took Peter and the two brothers, James and John, and led them up a high mountain to be alone. As the men watched, Jesus' appearance was transformed so that his face shone like the sun, and his clothes became as white as light. Suddenly, Moses and Elijah appeared and began talking with Jesus. Peter exclaimed, "Lord, it's wonderful for us to be here. If you want, I'll make 3 shelters as memorials, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah." But even as he spoke, a bright cloud overshadowed them, and a voice from the cloud said, "This is my dearly loved Son, who brings me great joy. Listen to him." The disciples were terrified and fell face down on the ground. Then Jesus came over and touched them. "Get up," he said, "don't be afraid." And when they looked up, Moses and Elijah were gone, and they saw only Jesus. As they went back down the mountain, Jesus commanded them, "Don't tell anyone what you have seen until the Son of Man has been raised from the dead." Amen. Until you come to understand that God created you to worship, life will not make much sense. But if you look around you and consider your own experience, you will realize that every human being has an innate need to worship someone or something. That someone or something we worship is where we discover our own self-worth. If we don't worship God, then we'll find something else to worship. Money, possessions, career, family, football team, even ourselves. After nearly 3 years together, it seems as if Jesus' disciples had finally understood this. When Jesus asked them who they thought he was, Peter replied, "You are the Messiah, the Son of the living God." But immediately afterwards, this declaration of Peter's was tested, and he came up short. So a few days later, Jesus leads Peter, James, and John up a high mountain to be alone. In this sacred place, the disciples experienced a vision, a brief glimpse of Jesus' true glory. His face shone like the sun, his clothes became white as light. This was a special revelation of Jesus' divinity to them, and God's affirmation that he truly was who they had declared him to be. It was also a reminder that the only proper response to Jesus' glory and divinity was to worship. When we truly worship Jesus, when we focus on his glory and his divinity, then anything else that might call on our attention, anything else that might seem worthy of worship, fades into darkness. As Kathy and Wayne Perrin wrote, "When I look into your holiness, when I gaze into your loveliness, when all things that surround become shadows in the light of you, when I've found the joy of reaching your heart, when my will becomes enthroned in your love, when all things that surround become shadows in the light of you, I worship you. I worship you. The reason I live is to worship you." As you consider these thoughts today, these questions might help you to go deeper. What are you tempted to worship instead of Jesus? And what can you do to ensure that you remain focused on him? And I hope to see you again soon for another battle drill.